buddy in the red shirt that just went by. I don't know if you guys can see him in the background, but if you are one of those people that watches these videos, I'm available for a golf lesson if you need one. I'm not trying to be offensive, but I'm available if you need it. All right, folks, today's a good day. Today's a beautiful day, in fact. Sun is shining here in Florida, temperature is just right, and we're gonna become a better ball striker as a whole because I got a fun drill for you. This drill is a drill that's kind of like the meticulous cousin to the compression drill that we just put out a few weeks ago. This drill is going to be very detailed rich. And the reason for that is that this game requires a lot of precision. And a lot of us at home think that the precision that we need to have comes with a whole lot of tension through the hands and the arms. And that's what gets you into trouble in the first place. So we've got a good video for you today because I'm going to shake that tension out of you and I'm going to turn you into a lean, mean ball striking machine. But before we do that, it's super, super important that you understand one extraordinarily big factor when it comes to this game. Your ability to become a consistent ball striker exponentially increases if you have a good delivery position built into your golf swing. Now, a lot of you at home don't have a good position because of the inputs that you give the golf club very early on in this process. I also want you to understand one very important analogy as we start to get the wheels turning here with this drill today. I have a 6-iron in my hands today, and if I was to hit this in a stock shot format, I'm gonna try to get this golf ball to go 190 yards, that this club head is gonna move in space 25 miles an hour during my takeaway and my backswing, 25 miles an hour in the downswing. And then as my hands and arms start to work down in front of my body, this club head is now just about 3 feet from the golf ball. This club head is gonna speed up from 25 miles an hour to 95 miles an hour in that short space. Most of you at home have that backwards. Now, I want you to think about that analogy for a second, and I want you to understand something very clearly when it comes to the people that play this game at the highest level. The people that play this game at the highest level, that hit all of those really fancy looking shots that you see on TV or when you go out to a tournament, under no circumstance are they actively trying to give the golf club some sort of major input in that short space during the release. They are not trying to put any sort of big inputs in the club face. In fact, they're trying to get out of their own way and let the golf club do what it's designed to do. And a lot of you at home aren't burned in that sort of mindset just yet because you don't have any trust in that process. You want to be in control of something that you don't need to be in control of. You need to start building some trust back in your golf clubs because golf clubs are designed to do a lot of the work for you. That's right. Golf clubs are designed to be swung on an inclined plane. And the club head is designed to rotate around its axis. And so many of you at home want to think that all of the fundamental flaws or faults that you have in the swing shape is something that you're going to be able to rein in and get control and be able to manipulate. And at that point, it's already too late. You're not going to be able to make any changes or any significant changes and become a consistent ball striker. You need to get the inputs in the golf club the proper way early on in the swing shape, just like the best men and women do in the world. And you'll be a much happier player when this is all said and done because you're set up for success. We have a couple of little small housekeeping items before we get started. And I know a lot of you at home are just like, where can I get the fast forward button going here so I can just skip to the good part? But know this, the slot impact release drill is designed as a 2-video series. Today, in the first video, there's going to be 3 major components that we're going to be working through. In the second video, you're going to be starting to pick up the pace quite a bit and you're going to be turning this into a real golf swing. But you need to have an adequate number of reps under your belt before you start taking on video number 2. So what we're going to be shooting for over the next 7 to 10 days is somewhere between 700 to 1,000 total repetitions. Burn, burn. I know a lot of you at home are like, I gotta do that many reps. Of course you do. This is swing change. It takes discipline, it takes a good practice program, and it takes a whole lot of wherewithal when it comes to what it actually takes to make a real change. And today is gonna feel like you're a small child and I'm holding your hand in public. That's how slow and methodical we're gonna be. Okay, so here we are at step number 1. This step is by far the hardest step to stay fully committed to because of all the details that are in it. We're only gonna be trying to do 10 reps where we basically get ourselves into a preset position in the slot and then working down into impact. Now, I'm gonna do my very best to move through this as quickly as humanly possible. As we get into steps 2 and step 3, there's one little small adjustments that we do at step 2, and then step 3 is where we start to have some fun. I want you to be very meticulous about how you work through step 1. And the reason for this is that you want to be working from the same exact position every single rep that you do over the next 700 to 1,000 reps, if you know what I'm saying. Every single one of the reps that we're gonna be doing over the next 7 to 10 days, I want you to make sure that your head and your chest and your lower body stay very quiet when you are moving your arms and your body into the slotted position. Try your best to keep your head and your chest down and try to keep your lower body as quiet as you possibly can. You can allow for a little bit of movement here though. Now I like to have a golf ball down on the ground because we are training our subconscious that, hey, these new crazy movements that we're working on are here to stay. And I also have a line that's coming off of my trail foot straight back. Now, when I work through this drill, what we're gonna do is we're gonna preset the wrists into the spot, and then we're gonna move our body to move our arms. That's how I want you to think about it. Now, to do this, I want you to take your setup, club in behind the ball, and I want you just to go ahead and lift the club head straight up so the club shaft is parallel to the ground. Now, keeping that club parallel to the ground, I just want you to set your trail wrist, like if you were hammering a nail into the wall, until the butt end of the club is now just pointed outside your lead thigh. From your perspective, this club head is out in front of your hands. What also started to happen based off of the strength of your grip is that your lead hand actually started to flatten off. Now from this position, what we're gonna do is keep the head and the chest quiet, and we're just gonna turn our body back, keeping our hands on top of this toe line, not letting our hands get behind it, not pushing our hands out away from us, just seeing from our perspective that our hands are tracing back on that line by turning our body, and we're gonna turn enough to where our hands are now at belt height. Now from your perspective, if you look over at the club is now back in behind your hands. It got there by adding some body turn to the preset position that you had down in front of you. This is the spot that you're gonna be working from day in and day out. How did we get here? Set the wrist or cock the wrist, set the trail wrist. Then from there, we kept our hands moving back on the toe line, and we worked to turn our body until we got the hands to be about belt height. Once you hit that position, I want you to make sure that you can kind of feel where your arms are, have some awareness of where the club head is. Now to finish this off, to get ourselves back into a good impact position, what we're gonna do is I want you to keep the club head from your perspective. I want you to try to keep the club head up and behind your hands. And from here, I want you just to take your hips and shift them all the way to your left side. And I want you to open them up as much as you possibly can. And I want you to stop. Now, I tried to keep the club head up and behind my hands, but what I notice here is that the club shaft is parallel to the ground. My hands have worked all the way down into where they started from. I've got all my weight on my lead foot, and I've got my hips open a pretty significant amount. Not all the way to 35 to 45 degrees, but I got them open. Remember, what's actually moving the hands and the arms from the top of the swing down into the hitting area is a little bit of gravity and a whole lot of leg work. You want to have that put in your brain right now before you start working through to video number 2 next week. So we're going to go through it again. Elevate, keep the club shaft parallel, set that trail wrist. Okay, turn your body back slowly. Hands should be out on top of the toe line. Okay, from here, shift your hips to your lead side. Keep the club back in behind the hands and up above them, and stop. Okay, I want you to be able to do this movement, again, from the same spot every single time. Okay, so step number 2 is where we start managing the club face, where we start getting it ready for success. Now, what I want you to know is this, is that when it comes down to being a good ball striker, you've heard me talk about getting the club into the correct position. What is the correct position though? Well, what you'll find with all of the best players is that not only is the golf club and the hands in front of the trail thigh here and the club shaft is parallel to the ground, is that you're gonna see that the golf club, if this is toed up, you're gonna see that the club is slightly toed down. What you'll also notice is that the club is going to be very much in line with the hands. Never out in front of the hands. It's always going to be in line with the hands when the hands work down in front of the trail thigh or slightly back in behind it. That's what we're going to be shooting for. So we're going to be making sure that we shoot for the club being in line with the hands and slightly toed down. Now, what we need to do is we need to test you to see what the club is doing, and that's step number 1, to see what sort of inputs we need to give it. Now, understand that your grip plays a significant role with what your release pattern is really going to be. An example is that I have a very neutral to a weak sort of lead hand position on the golf club when I set up. That means that I'm going to have a little bit more wrist and forearm rotation to square the face on the way down, where somebody that has a really strong grip, when their hands and arms start to work down, they may already have the golf club in the correct spot. But what we're going to do here is we're going to check it to make sure that the position is correct. And if not, we're going to give it some input here. We're going to get it to actually start to square up. That's what all of the best players in the world do, is they start the process of squaring the club face far earlier than what you do. You get it? Okay, good. Now, how I want you to test this is you're going to go do one more rep that you just did on number 1. You're going to bring the club head straight up, set the trail wrist. Okay, turn your body back, keep your hands out on the toe line. Now from here, I want to go ahead and keep the club up and behind the hands, and I want to shift left, and I want to stop. Now my club is actually perfectly toed up to the sky here, and I want it to be slightly toed down. So I'm going to turn my wrist, I'm going to turn that club, so now it's in the right spot. What I just felt there was a movement that I want to try to get in place as I start making my shift over to my lead side. So from that slotted position, as I start letting the club work down, staying back and behind the hands, I'm going to rotate that wrist and try to get it into that same spot. So let's go ahead and go through it now. Okay, so from a good address position, club up. Okay, now I'm going to turn my body slowly, keep my hands on top of that toe line. Okay, from here, I'm going to shift left. Okay, now the club is in line with my hands and it's now toed down. This is the spot where I can start letting it go. We're going to do this process 10 times. So you have 10 warm-up reps, just working on getting from a slot position to impact. 10 more reps where now you're starting to manage the club face. And then from there, we're going to work on step number 3. So let's do a couple more reps and then we'll get into the fun stuff. Remember, this line on the ground, I want you to push yourself because it's going to force you to do some things that we're not mentioning here. Club head up, set the wrists, hands tracing back, turn your body, keep your legs and your hips, everything really quiet as much as you can. From there, keep the club head up and behind the hands, shift your lead side, give it the inputs that you need, check the positions. Hands in front of the trail thigh, you betcha. Club shaft parallel to the ground, yep. Toe of the club slightly toed down, got it. All those positions are met and we are ready for liftoff. Very important that you understand the 10 reps that we did pre-setting the arms and moving into impact, and the 10 reps that we just did there with managing the club face do not count as part of your reps for the 700 to 1,000 reps. We want working reps here. The working reps are when we start making fluid movement here. So now this next and final step is where we just start shaking out all that tension. Tension is your worst enemy. It really is. There is tension levels that we actually have as golfers that we do manage during the entire process. But when those hands and arms get down in front of you, we need to release it. That's what the word release means. By definition, release means what? Well, Chris, that means to let go. That doesn't mean for hang on for dear life and squeeze the living you know what I'm saying? You need to chill out and let the club do what it's designed to do. So how I like to do this is I like to feel like I'm holding the club in the pinky finger and my ring finger very lightly, okay? On a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being rigid and tense, 1 being supple and relaxed, we're gonna hold the club at a 1 or 2. This is gonna feel out of control on the way down. You're gonna feel maybe the club wanting to go in certain areas. Do not worry about that. Focus on what your hands and your arms, or the position that your hands and your arms in. Then from there, as soon as you start shifting left, give the little input for your wrist to make sure the club face is in a good spot, and then let her go. So we're gonna do some reps without a golf ball first, and then we're gonna bring the ball in if I'm really connected to the movements. Okay, set up, set the wrist, okay. Turn slowly, make sure you're methodical, get the hands and the arms in the right spot. My hands kind of snuck in behind the line there. Okay, so on the way down, I started to shift left, I started to square the face, and then I just let it go. Do not try to command it or control what it's doing when the hands and arms start to work down in front of your body. Little input, let her go. Okay, so I'm gonna do, once I've got the good feel for it, I'm gonna start my practice session now. I'm gonna hit some balls. And the objective here is not to hit the golf ball a long ways. The objective here is to get committed to the movements. Okay, so that's a good practice swing there. I'm gonna bring the golf ball in. I'm having to hit off mats still because we're in overseed mode here in Florida. Remember, this line is critical so you don't get your hands and arms buried in behind it. So here's how we do it. Okay. Okay, so that was really good solid contact. Ball went off a little bit to the right there, which tells me that I probably didn't get enough influence on the way down. So I'm gonna focus on this next rep of feeling a little bit more wrist and forearm rotation, just like I drilled leading up to this. So we're gonna preset it. Okay, let's see how we do this time. Okay, so that ball is perfectly straight and really solid on a nothing of a swing. That ball went probably about 110 yards in the air, rolled out to like 125 yards. Who wouldn't want that? Now, I'm gonna be the first to tell you, I don't love drills where I'm presetting the club and moving it into spots. The reason why you have to do that is because in this part of the process, you wanna make sure that it's in the perfect spot every single time. That's what us and playing professionals are so good at, is that we always work into and through the same position. Now, I know the big pressing question on everybody's mind right now is, can I do this with a driver? You can if you want to. And can I actually work from a static address position back into the slot and make this one fluid movement? Of course you can, but you want to back check things on camera, and you want to make sure that your hands and your arms are coming in from the right location. You want to back check the club face on the way down, and you certainly want to make sure that you're moving in the correct sequence on the way through impact. So there you go. So another straight low shot. That right there is the foundation to this whole process that you're going to start taking in order to become a more consistent player. Don't go out there and start pulling the keys off the wall for your Ferrari and start putting it into overdrive. Have the wherewithal to take your time and go through this process. The objective is to get the hands and the arms and the club in the right spot, to manage the club face on the way down and get rid of all of that tension that you show up with in the first place. If you do that and you're successful over the next 7 to 10 days and beyond, then video number 2 is gonna rock your world, because we're gonna be making real golf swings at that point, and you're gonna be seeing how all of the videos that I put out as of late really tie hands with one another. So let's do one more rep, all the way through the whole practice program here. So, okay, I'm gonna try to move through that position, tension free. Okay, that felt good. I'm gonna just try to make a fluid swing now, trying to feel that same spot. What I want you to get out of this drill is exactly what I just said to you moments ago, is I want you to leave this drill with a better understanding of where your hands and arms and the club need to come in from and how to manage the club face from that position. Next week, we're gonna lengthen things up. Do me a big favor, get out there and have some fun when you work on a drill like this, and get ready to start being a more consistent player. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. We'll see you in the next video.